You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Welcome to Force 13 Live, and we're currently tracking Cyclone Freddy, a Southern Hemisphere trawler that has been going on for a long time now. It's been active for, I think, over 10 days already, and is expected to remain with us for another week. And right now is a strong Category 4. Our analyst team have gone with 155 mph winds and a pressure of 930 millibars. And from what I saw in text not long ago, I believe Meteo France have gone with that as well, but we'll get confirmation from our team in a moment. As you can see, there is the storm on satellite imagery. There were the last visibles before it got dark. Let's just sort out that bottom bar over there as well, so you can see all of the text. It's got a clear eye, and it's looking good, very good on that latest imagery, and we'll have lots of other different images to show you of the storm as well. I'm just trying to sort out that bar over there. I can't get to it. Okay then, well let's, with no further ado, let's introduce our team who are in the background, and we'll be able to see them visually if they're showing any screen shares, but not at this present time, so we'll stick with my screen right now. But we've got plenty of people on board, but first let's speak to one of our, I don't know which one wants to pipe up first, but our Cyclone analysts, Kenneth and Soham, are with us right now. Who'd like to go first to talk about this storm today?
Yeah, sure.
Kenneth.
Let me start first, right? So Freddy, it has been some fluctuations over the past few days. Well, despite remaining a Category 4 for a very long time, our replacement cycle, there's some fluctuations recently, dry, because of like some dry air and shear, but very recently it has the overcast cooled very significantly at all quadrants. The eye also become very stunning right now, pretty much best at all times as of now, like 18 to 20 degrees Celsius of eye, very warm and circular eye, with convection surroundings negative 65 to 70 in average. Pretty decent as satellite estimates as well. Currently sticking between 120 to 135 knot range, which we have gone to the upper end of the edge of that. Well, let's go and break down the estimates. Let me share the screen directly.
Oh right, okay.
Here we go. So one by one we're going through.
Let me just try and get this up first. It's been a while since we did a proper stream, so a little bit rusty. Let me try and find you. Oh, hold on. There. Nope. There. There you are. This is Kenneth's screen right now. So what have you got for us there?
Sure. So we have ADT, which is showing 122.2. IDT is 124. You can see these opening are slightly lower. Well, a bit earlier, CIMSS estimates has been down for some while, which then take a little bit of time to re-pick up, but you can see the microwave estimates especially. Although the cloud top is not so cold, but the symmetry of the CDO and the eye shape and temperature has been extremely stunning, that could have gone a bit higher than the infrared estimate, which we can see in the purely microwave estimates. Like, yeah, the latest going here, you can see in the last few days it entirely like about 130 135 knot range. You can see here, yeah, since later the 14th until now, it's still like around 130, 135
Mm.
knots. You can see many red areas very symmetric core, which deep learning, is returned. It is just 130, 135 range. Yeah, and we have some close up on there. Yeah, you can see those red, yellow area, which signifies temperatures colder than 210, 200 degree Kelvin, which is a very solid and symmetric rain, very solid and strong rain. You can also see the annular characteristic. You can see little to no banding at the core. That's also pretty much the annular characteristic. You can see no banding in either microwave or even infrared satellite imagery. You can also see there's like little outer band there, which signifies annular characteristics, mainly owing to, you can see here, the mid-level relative humidity. The humidity surrounding is pretty low, lower than 50%. It's pretty dry environment that inhibits the outer circulations forming outer banding, and that somewhat also explains why there's no very apparent chiral replacement cycle that really disrupt the system in the past few days, mainly owing to the low relative humidity that keeps it annular and away from apparent hour replacement cycle. Despite there's some share earlier. Right now is also dropped to like 10 knots or something, and which it is a very intense system. It can generate its own outflow, its own moisture bubble, which is why its core itself is not exactly greatly being, hammered by the mid-level like dry air and shear. Despite earlier there's the fluctuation, it still successfully maintained its category 4 intensity, and currently it once again developed, and based on the latest estimates of 120 to 135 range, and because of the ice symmetry shape, the core symmetry, and the temperature is very stunning. And particularly, my grade estimate is going especially higher at 130 to 135 knots, and that is why we're going at the upper end of the satellite estimates in starting range at 155 miles per hour, and pressure and wind-derived pressure based on CK's relationship at 930 millibars.
Well, me personally, I'm not so convinced on that intensity, although it is looking better in more recent satellite frames, so certainly is towards the high end of Category 4 status. Rather a small system as well, and by the way, I neglected to mention a few things at the start as well. We are an open forum. You can get in your comments and questions live on the air by sending in your messages. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and we'll take questions later. Also want to mention that we have Signal 1 warnings, not Signal 1, that's in the Philippines, Class 1 warnings in Mauritius, in effect for Rodrigues, but nowhere else at the moment. Soham, your analysis of the storm, if you want. Why don't you go ahead?
At the moment, I don't really have much else to say, mainly because Kenneth has mostly said whatever I think.
Stow your thunder there, then.
Otherwise, the storm has notably improved in recent frames, and on top of that, overall model consensus has relative humidity. That's the overall environment for surrounding the storm, only improving in the coming days. As for the shear setup, that is still uncertain this far out. So we could see some weakening on approach to Madagascar, but we are still uncertain as to how much of weakening there will be. JTWC thinks it will weaken all the way down to minimal Cat 3.
Here's some more imagery of the storm.
Convinced.
And to compare it to where the islands are right now, you can see where the storm is in relation to Rodrigues there, that small island on the right-hand side, and then Mauritius in the middle and Réunion on the left-hand side there. That is, in real terms, how far the storm is from land and its current movement, continuing there down towards the west-southwest. At its current trajectory, it would pass to the north of the islands, although the edge of the storm would definitely be placed over both and all of those islands. Indeed. We'll take a look at JTWC forecast cone in a minute as well. I was going to say something else though, but I've actually forgotten. No, the distance. Yes, it's currently 2,000 kilometers from Mauritius right now, and I would estimate probably about 1,600 from Rodrigues. So it is getting closer, of course, at this point. Let's see if we can take a look at that JTWC cone. There it is. They initialized the storm at 120 knots, and then, as you mentioned, Soham, gradual weakening. After strengthening at first, actually, well, re-strengthening, it drops a bit and then it goes back up to 120 knots as its closest pass to Rodrigues, and then continues towards Madagascar there with a final intensity at landfall about 95 knots. That's high-end category 2. So I imagine there's definitely a lot of wriggle room for that intensity forecast, and to an extent the track forecast. What do we think about how the track has been going along? Of course, it's a very don't really want to say the word unusual, but certainly beyond what we usually see. And there is another model ensemble guidance on this. What do we make of it right now, and how locked in is this track forecast?
It's not often that a storm in the southern hemisphere have a track like this. It, I guess, if to make a comparison to the North Atlantic, which is a huge majority of the fever of this channel come from. This is sort of like what you call over there the Caribbean cruiser. That went from all the way in the Eastern Atlantic, all the way into like the UK and Mexico. The storm begins near the island of Sulu, Indonesia, and now travel all the way across the Indian Ocean with forecast landfall in Madagascar, even making it to the Mozambique Channel and to Mozambique. This is, well, it is quite unusual. It's not often that the storm managed to track for this long and maintain such intensity, but it has happened before. In fact, in 2000, it happened twice in 3 months with Cyclone Leon and Elian and Cyclone Huda. So at present, an it is an interesting situation and a worrying situation for the Massachusetts Islands and Madagascar. And at present, it seems like the front is not exactly trending anywhere, and it already is out. So it's just that then it doesn't seem like any drastic changes that perhaps most spirit
All right.
is going to have.
We're struggling a bit with the audio there. Farhan, that was. I think it might be signal issues. But here is the model run, the GFS, what it shows on Freddy in the coming days. This is a loop that goes out to 7 days. Look at it mainly for the track rather than the intensity, and it breezes across the northern side of Mauritius and Reunion, then goes towards southern Madagascar. But look at that afterwards. It continues and redevelops in the Mozambique Channel, and it could end up striking Mozambique itself. I also want to point out on that loop there, towards the end of that 7-day period, another system starts to form, and it looks like that one might end up missing and pushing on towards the south. Kuhan says GFS long range predicts a stalling motion on Mozambique after making landfall on Madagascar. Any comments on that, and what would that mean in terms of impact that they could face?
Well, considering the fact that it's still long range, so I'm still a little iffy on that. I would rather revisit the scenario once we actually come to enter that point, if it were up to me.
All right.
At least I'll also say that if you forecast that long range, especially you have Madagascar, a big terrain that significantly weakens the system, which we want that after the structural reformation that as the certainty upwards, as the actually the moment you have better certainty to say, oh, it will store or not, because as of now I'll not exactly say it's gonna store yet.
Yeah, I've not seen much indicating an actual stalling, but certainly maybe a little bit of indecision in its motion when it goes through Madagascar, perhaps. Let's try and talk to some of our other members right now. I think someone who may actually be closest to the storm is Blaine over there in South Africa. I know it's not going to go there, but what's your viewpoint on Freddy right now?
Hi, everyone. I'm new to the team. Sorry.
Welcome aboard.
Uh, so my view right now is, honestly, I hope it doesn't go towards Madagascar, because they just got hit by a bunch of rain last month with
Yeah,
or the
that's
month
true from the
before with
last storm.
Chiniso. So, and I don't actually see like long tracking storms like this that go towards Madagascar. So if it does, then it will probably be something that I haven't seen before. So right now, you can actually see there's some lightning on the visible imagery if you look at my screen. And yeah, it's JTWC has it going towards like tilting a little bit south, west, and then it will become just like a low-end tropical cyclone. But this is obviously uncertain. So I can also take a look at the sea surface temperatures right now that it's sight. And well, this is windy. This is Copernicus. I don't know how to pronounce it. The around 28 degrees Celsius. I'll just for you guys who live in America, I'll put it on Fahrenheit for you. It's like 82, 83 degrees Fahrenheit, so quite high for cyclone development. Well, according to the standards I've heard in
It
Nathan's
is
tropical weather bulletins.
28, 29 there all the way along. What about closer to Madagascar and Mauritius?
Mauritius is around 28
Yep.
towards like the north side over there. Rodriguez, you can see it's like 27, 28. And then if we go here to the east coast, you can see like
29 there.
29.
And then
Yeah.
really, I mean, really the warmest area there is the Mozambique Channel afterwards as well.
So if it survives landfall on Madagascar, which
it will in some form.
Yeah, so it will probably impact Mozambique. That's what I think right now. And you can still, not as warm as they were with Chiniso, but you can see they are still quite warm.
Yeah, they were very warm for Chiniso, and that storm put them a little bit below average for a while. You know what? If this storm had happened a couple of weeks ago, then in the Mozambique Channel it would have been cooler there, but it's been enough time for those sea surface temperatures in that channel to recover, eh?
Yeah, so the other thing is I hope that when I go in December to Mozambique, we might go there for a cruise. Let's hope I don't get hit by a cyclone. Fingers crossed.
Well, that's something
December.
else entirely, but yeah, I mean, usually you don't get much going on in December.
I mean, it would be cool because I haven't really been in a proper cyclone before, or hurricane. Here in Cape Town, we only really get hit by extratropical, and it's actually quite warmer than average.
Mm-hmm.
Just would like to come in. There's a new microwave imagery pass that has come in for Freddy.
Oh, does anyone have it?
And then
I do. I'll just post it in live output. 1 second.
And then can I continue?
Was there anything else?
Not much, but I just think right now that it's probably going to bring quite a lot of rain.
Okay, check live output.
There is. Sorry.
Rainfall accumulations too.
We will get onto that in a little bit, but let's just take a look at this microwave image first. What do we think of it then, Soam? Tell us. What is your interpretation of this image?
First things first, it's pretty. It should be pretty obvious where the shear is coming from. The shear is more or less southeasterly, which is denoted by the fact that the convection that is with the shear vector, which we call down shear quadrants, is wrapping through the east side and is thin on the north side, which is what we call against the shear vector or up shear convection. So what this means is essentially Freddy is still fighting a touch light of shear, but it's more or less done a pretty good job for fending it off. Also of note, look at the green. You see that big green band surrounding the storm, like that huge green band.
To the
I
northwest?
wouldn't call it band. To the northwest and to the south, you see that huge green outline.
Hmm.
This is what we call a mid-level dryer. It's a little hard to
Oh.
discern, but that's usually a very good indicator that there's dry air present in the area. What Freddy has done is that it's managed to cocoon itself in this sort of small moisture bubble
Yeah.
that has managed to keep it going all this time. And this is also an important note of why this, combined with the shear which had been affecting it for the last few days, is why this storm has gone for so long without a proper eyewall replacement cycle, which is kind of impressive, I must admit.
So are you saying that this might be coming to an end then, or what?
What I'm pointing out is that this storm can very much still stay on for as long as it wants.
Well, there
Like
we go.
it's got the conditions for it.
So
Well, that's worrying.
that's a little bit worrying. Someone in chat actually says, "I hope the people in Madagascar are prepared." I agree with you, Perry Lim.
Yeah, I was checking their Twitter. I believe the Meteo France has pointed out that starting tomorrow they'll be tracking the storm more intently because of the potential threat it poses to the area.
And there is the Meteo France track that they issued at 4 p.m. local time. Of course, time there right now 7:22 in Mauritius and in La Réunion. And you can see what they're expecting. Pretty much no change in intensity from here until landfall, which is quite something. That's still 4 days away when it makes landfall in Madagascar, if this forecast comes true. It also shows you those yellow radials on the periphery. I imagine that's tropical storm force winds, so affecting all of those islands, including Rodrigues, and then onto a large part of Madagascar. I just want to talk to a few other people in our chat right now. Jack, you're showing us some imagery once again of the storm, another view. And there it is. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about Freddy right now?
Well, I've just been looking at this. If you have a look at all this massive green band, over the last few hours, actually, it's just exploded. Like it's just completely filtered down and just.
Well, I don't know. I think. Well, I wouldn't. I
Okay,
think that
just
is
one. I just wanted
transition
to come in.
to nighttime.
I just wanted. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to just interrupt this area. The satellite you're using there, Himawari 8, is very, very bad for this storm. I would heavily suggest switching to Meteosat 9. For that you can go to Real Earth for the imagery.
But to explain
The
that
issue with
blow up
Himawari
there,
8,
I'm pretty sure that's that
yeah,
was just I don't know exactly how
that's
it
the high
happened.
zenith angle affecting the storm.
No,
Let me see if I can
not
find an
that.
image.
No, he's talking about how the cloud tops all exploded, but I'm pretty sure that was just the viewing as it went from day to night. It just had that effect. Well, there's another
It's more
view.
of an
That's
effect
one.
of the fact.
Also Himawari there.
It's more.
Either way,
It's more of an effect of the fact that the storm is so badly skewed on Himawari 9 that it's just that any convective outburst just looks like an entire explosion. It's a lot more natural in Meteosat.
Oh, it could be that.
No worry is placed over like
Yeah,
it.
Himawari is over Japan, and it's like Earth's sphere looking from Japan to Indian Ocean, and and Himura can like barely see it. I'm now generating a loop in-depth here, and yeah, it probably showing what he's saying.
We can actually show you what the view from Himawari was just as it went dark earlier, and it is good for the visuals. That's about it. Let's show you the last visible imagery that we got from Himawari 8 earlier. Here we go. Someone needs to turn their phone off, and you can see how it looked there from Himawari 8. As you can see, very near... Sorry, Himawari 9. I've fallen into that old... habit, and you can see there the view from the Himawari 9 satellite as you look towards the limb of the Earth.
So badly skewed that any increase in convection will just cause the entire brightness data to get completely skewed. So Himawari 9 is essentially unusable at this point for this star.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let's also talk to Declan, who's with us now as well. You've been watching with interest too. Just want to give you the opportunity to say what's on your mind regarding Freddy.
Well, I think that it will probably hold its intensity for probably a day or two, and then probably start weakening as it heads towards the islands of Mauritius and Union. And this morning when I looked at it, the satellite, the eye was starting to pop out, and then I thought it would probably re-intensify back to a category 4, 140, 145 in my opinion. And then as it got better, as its eye popped out more further and started to get warmer and deeper, I bumped my intensity up to 155 miles an hour. But I don't believe that this was a Cat 5, in my opinion.
That's another big area of contention as well. The JTWC went and upgraded retrospectively their analysis of the storm to 165 miles per hour. I think it's absolute nonsense. I don't know what any of you guys think about that. Brief word on that?
Yeah, it's nonsense.
Oh, well, there you go.
Pretty much they said that.
The one second. The one thing they used to upgrade to Cat 5 also was a synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, and that also got recalibrated to below category 5 intensity.
I see. Well,
yeah, I think that it was quite, like, I was quite shocked, like, how did it rapidly intensify that quick? So I was just thinking either this is gonna be like Hurricane Ian all over again, or it's just going to it's also a joke. Basically I just was like, you gotta be kidding me. Is this gonna make landfall as a category 5? I hope it doesn't, but I think it is probably going to start weakening when it gets towards those colder sea surface temperatures.
All right, let's go to Alex. We've not seen you yet, and you're showing us some imagery from EUMETSAT, of course, being our Force 13 Europe lead. That sort of goes hand in hand. Why don't you tell us what your thoughts are on Freddy today?
Well, I've been kind of keeping an eye on it, besides preparing for tests the past week, but it's been some quite interesting developments after Freddy struggled for a while with, if I'm correct, easterly south, easterly shear, and dry air intrusions, and now finding the ice coming up. And what immediately struck out to me is this stadium effect, which is a sign of very powerful convective updrafts within the eye, which often signifies either intensification or it's like at its most intense point and it could weaken from here on out. I will have to see more recent imagery to confirm that, because this is from this morning. And if I grab another band This is called volcanic ash RGB, and yeah, this just shows how incredibly dry this eye is. The colors here in light blue are similar to the light blue over here, so that's very dry. Let me get some air mass imagery. No, the strong band. This one, here you can also see how dry the eye actually is. Not sure about how dryness of the eye correlates with intensity serum. Do you have anything about that, or can it?
Yeah, the drier the eye, the larger the larger the case, for higher intensity generally.
And if you zoom out a bit there, Alex, looks like there's a lot of dry air out around the storm, particularly east.
Yeah, I'm worked out for those who. Let me change my screen to drawing. There it is.
Oh.
All right, so let me mark out the dry air for ones who are searching for it. This entire region here, all this marked, this is all dry air. And this is one of the reasons, along with shear factor, which is this-ish, if I remembered it correctly. And this pushes the dry air right into the storm. You can also see how the convection is displaced.
Oh yeah.
Over here, the outflow mainly, showing that there's something pushing against it from this side.
It's been like that the whole time, though, as well, hasn't it? Since it was near Australia, it had that easterly wind shear.
Yeah, that's mainly because of an upper level anticyclone that is quite large and has plagued it since like the very beginning.
Probably around this region.
The main driver.
Probably around here it is. This would correlate nicely with its shear. You can also see the curves.
Yeah, fascinating.
Remarkable how it all.
Let's see. Yeah, so if we zoom in a bit, we see this bit where the dot is. Right here, this is about as dry as this area.
Oh.
That's quite a dry eye.
Certainly is.
It shows how strong the convective updrafts are. The stronger those updrafts, the stronger the quote-unquote anticyclone on top of cyclone forms because of the air rising and then cooling again as it sinks, forming a high-pressure area up in the upper levels of the cyclone. That induces dried air down in the eye, and yeah, the stronger those updrafts, the more air basically gets sucked up, like you can say quote-unquote a vacuum cleaner, but it's not really like a vacuum cleaner. And this dries the eye and yeah, makes the storm more intense generally.
Farhan, I think you wanted to say something. I don't know how your signal is, but we'll persevere if we can. Go ahead.
I just want to say that it's remarkable that even with all these challenges, it has managed to get to this point and maintain it. It's remarkable, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get some comments from our viewers right now, and if you do want to know anything in particular about this storm, we'll do our best. How about that storm after Freddy? Is there a chance that it will hit any land? First of all, it may not form at all, but latest indications that we're getting from that potential system is that it won't affect land and it will stay out to sea. We're still playing out that model run. You see Freddy there, continues westwards, off it goes. Gradual southerly element gets a little bit more pronounced as it moves towards Madagascar there, turning southwestwards, landfall. And then that second system forms near the end of that loop, probably on day 5 or 6, around about the 23rd of February. And then it curves quite clearly poleward and recurves southwards. So for our experts here, certainly compared to me, why is it that Freddy is staying much further westwards on its track and that next system will be pulled southwards? Why would that be?
Right.
I think that had to do with a system before Freddy that really strengthened the high pressure ridge to its south.
So what happened with Freddy? Why Freddy's models trended so west is actually a fascinating question. See, what had happened was to its west, if you remember, a few days back, I cannot believe it's been so long.
Yeah.
Dingani was active. Dingani was active, and so it has upper level outflow, right? So every storm has an upper level outflow, strong, relatively strong storm. So what happened is the upper level poleward outflow of the storm, it pushed air into the subtropical high ridge. So what it did is essentially what happens when you push more air into a high pressure area, it gets stronger, right? Logically speaking.
Yep.
So what it did was by pushing more air into the subtropical ridge, it became stronger and expanded more. It expanded more in strength. So that's basically what kept pushing Freddy towards the west. It's the reason why models initially models wanted it to curve out to sea, but because of how much Dingani overperformed,
Yeah, so I was just going to mention
the
that.
ridge became stronger than anticipated. This ridge became stronger than anticipated, and therefore the storm is now in this highly unusual track. Actually, not highly
Uh,
unusual. I remember
so
some
may
people
I also?
chatting about it a few days back. That Freddy is actually taking a historical first, doing a historical first in the southern hemisphere. No storm from where it has formed in around 117 degrees longitude has made it to Madagascar in the past.
And
No storm has done this.
as the resident cyclone historian, I can corroborate that. Alex?
And yeah, Jack, you were asking me a question, Jack?
Oh,
Oh, so as the storm gets closer to Madagascar, it's not just for like tracking and how impressive it is. There is still a danger to life, and people have to put that in mind as well.
Yeah, obviously, that's one of the biggest downsides of being a cyclone tracker.
Yeah.
You join it to appreciate the storms in the imagery, but you also have to understand and appreciate the fact that there's a big downside to that. I know that because I got slashed with Amphan firsthand.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment on latest satellite imagery?
Sure.
yeah, I just want to point out before
Mm-hmm.
that we're currently looking at simulated radar on the models here that we're just playing through, so that's what we're looking at right now. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, looking at this latest infrared satellite imagery, I'm looking on Windy UMETSAT. Basically, it's looking like you can actually see, like Alexander said, there's the whole dry air that's coming in from the east, and you can see some of that cloud just going away. There were all the 70-degree, it's all going away, and it's going to the northern side of the storm, and then you get 76-degree cloud tops over here, minus 76 basically. So you can see there that's trying to hold on, but it isn't. It's been
That's
really
generally just
classes.
normal. That's very what I would probably say that's fluctuations, because a storm is rarely ever static like this. Storms like these are often always rotating convection around. So there will always be some subsidence near the popping up thunderstorms where it'll be a little warmer here. So
Yeah,
as it continues, it will eventually fill up the southern side, and then it'll rotate again and fill up the northern side. It's generally how these storms work.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I actually also I've been seeing now. We were also talking about on the northern side. I don't know if I'm getting this right, but on the northern side we were talking about how there's a bunch of dry air also at the northwestern. I think if I remember correctly. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. Um, so basically, I was looking at GFS models over here. Geez, I zoomed out too much. So I'm looking at precipitation here. You can see there's barely any forecasted precipitation
Okay,
over there.
I think I can also help on that regard.
Yeah.
So essentially, mountainous islands Like for example, you have Madagascar. Then in the northern hemisphere, you have places like like Taiwan. Places like these mountainous islands, they experience a phenomenon which we know as downsloping, where dry air from the top gets transported down the mountains into
Generally, a phenomena near mountains.
Yeah.
yeah. So things like these often transport dry air towards the storm, or it can also transport away from the storm. It depends on the direction of the trade winds or the overall shear setup.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't remember how the shear setup is. I think discussion was it was westerly on approach to Madagascar, so that
I
could also play a big part in how much Freddy weakens.
Yeah.
I
So
can look
Uh,
quickly.
the, the
Sorry.
mid-level shear record is weak westerly mid-level.
yeah, which is why it's a wild card. The westerly shear amount of westerly shear required to transport the dry air into Freddy's inner core to disrupt the inner eye wall is simply too low. So it's a game. It's basically a game of chances at this point. How much Freddy will weaken on approach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I had another question off the back of Dingani earlier. If it hadn't formed at all, what would Freddy have done then?
Oh, that is a fascinating question. If Dingani had not formed at all, it's likely that the ridge would have never strengthened and allowed Freddy to take this track at all. It would have most likely harmlessly recurved out to sea towards the extratropical cyclones in the mid latitudes.
So you're saying this
So we
whole
would
thing is Dingani's fault?
exactly.
Then Connie, what did you do?
Dingani essentially made this track certain by overperforming.
Yeah.
Wow.
May I also note that the Antarctic polar vortex, as it's called officially in technical terms, that's basically what we all know in the northern hemisphere as this very cold region high up in the air where the poles are and such. Well, there's a very large area of low pressure surrounding that, and it's been weaker than normal as of late, I've noticed, in the southern hemisphere. So this could also play a role in strength of the ridge and direction Freddy's moving in. And I think Dengani indeed played a large role in that.
And there's your big illustration there.
Yeah. So this illustration here, you can see where the ridge is at the moment. And what struck me immediately, as well as what was familiar to me, is that the ridge is abnormally large. Usually we only see these things happen when the tropical cyclone actively interferes with synoptic patterns in the atmosphere, so large-scale weather patterns over thousands of kilometers. And yeah, that happened in this case, and looks like the ridge blew up in size and blocked basically any influence from south, which would pull Freddy south normally, but looks like that didn't happen. It's really chucked westward, and that expanded ridge in turn allowing Freddy to chill out in its bubble here.
We had a few viewer questions that I should get onto as well here. We've already answered that one actually. And Random says, why has there been 3 long-lived storms in the southern hemisphere this season? Darian, Dingani, and Freddy. I mean, I see what you mean with Dingani. It wasn't that long-lived as a storm, but its precursor system was there forever, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think
I was
Tunisia was
In fact,
longer.
just
looking at it.
94 edges
It's-
lasted 2 weeks.
2
Tunisia.
weeks.
2 weeks of
Yeah,
invest
I-
and then
Nathan,
I checked back. Jingani lasted 14 days as a precursor system.
God.
Nathan. Sorry, but I also just actually want to mention that I could tell that Cyclone. Oh my gosh, my parents. What? I mean, I'm doing live
I
coverage
think that's
on
one for the
Cyclone
blooper
Freddy.
reel.
But you could have at least said hello to Nathan.
We are live on the air. Is there any...
Yeah, sorry.
What did you want to say?
Sorry. Basically, what I wanted to say was that I could tell that Cyclone Shaniso, because once it came towards Madagascar, the South African Weather Service started tracking it. So I was looking on the Synoptic map for, the whole of South Africa, and I could tell that it was messing with the subnoptic patterns a little bit, because we had a cold front come from the south, which usually doesn't happen, and then the southeasterly blew like 90 kilometers an hour gusts. So that was fun. Thanks, Chaniso. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that.
All right.
You guys, yeah, you can continue. I have nothing
Well,
else
you can
to
see
say.
on this loop here in the last few hours, actually, guys, just want to mention this. It does appear as though the eye has shrunk a little bit as well.
Yep,
And is shrinking.
It's
It-
increasing
it-
even more.
Yeah. As you intensify, there's a bit of the eye contraction. It does after the CDS
Right.
descent.
Okay, so I've just seen the new Joint Typhoon Warning Center Dvorak fix, and I suffice to say I do not agree with it.
Yeah, I'm just pissed. I'm just pissed. That's just
Like
a
I can
very
see, I'm
low
looking.
grade error.
Yeah, it's a very rookie mistake from the JTWC there. Unfortunately,
Yeah, there's a
I was looking at the remarks. It says off-white eye, when the eye is quite clearly warm medium gray. So the eye is too
a
cold
very
according to the
warm,
JTWC.
warm medium gray.
Well.
20 degrees Celsius.
Can you guys give me a second? I'm going to be right back. So,
Right.
yeah.
Let's get some more questions here. Is there any chance of strong wind impacts to the Masserine Islands? Well, you'll see at the bottom of our screen on our bar down there, every so often we go through all of the locations and it shows you the chances of tropical storm force winds. It's around 50-50 for Mauritius right now, according to the latest probabilistic models anyway. Might want to think it could be a bit higher than that, but I suppose it is still like 2 or 3 days out, so I think those chances will go up when it gets closer. And Perry wants to know what rainfall amounts could happen in Madagascar. We'll go on to rainfall in just a moment after Soham.
Yeah, I just want to point out that there's also the fact that Freddy is gunning for a big record here. The big we know the accumulated cyclonic energy index, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, so GWC forecast cone expects it to break the record, the ACE record for the highest ever recorded by a storm in the southern hemisphere in history.
Wow, in the southern hemisphere. I can see that happening, though, of course. I thought you were going to say worldwide then, and that would have really have been something.
No, that would be too much. It's very difficult to beat Aoki's record.
Wow.
It looks like ECM doesn't take it further than that at very most, even in the outlier members. So that's practically ruled out.
Let's take a look at some
That
rainfall
will be a-
charts because we've not had the chance to do this yet. Here is the Masserine Islands, of course, and let me just get my tool out here. Rodriguez there on the right hand side. The GFS not predicting very much rain at all there for that area, less than an inch. That's around 10 to 20 millimeters of rainfall. You'll notice that throughout the whole track of the storm there, the rainfall accumulations aren't as high as you might think, maybe because of its relatively quick movement. On Mauritius itself there, you can see maximums of about just less than 3 inches there. That's 75 millimeters. Reunion gets a lot more, as it often does compared to Mauritius during these events. Around 5 inches there. That's 125 millimeters. Less so on the left-hand side, western side of the island, much more on the east. As for Madagascar, look at this. There's a large area of very high rainfall amounts, generally sparsely populated, this zone here. 10 to 11 inches, getting up towards 12. The main population centres like the capital, Antananarivo, and some other locations around there are shown on the bottom of our screen, and they don't get so much, only maximums about 3 or 5 inches maybe, but still quite high numbers, especially when you consider what's already happened in Madagascar with Chaniso, extreme amounts of rain from that. And then, even within that 7-day period, I think this counts as Freddy. Quite a lot going on there in Mozambique as well. So certainly a rainfall threat for Mozambique later on, if that track forecast stays true. But that's pretty much it for the rainfall estimates.
Nathan.
Go ahead.
Do you mind if I maybe show the European models what they say?
I know that Alex just had it there, but we weren't able to show it in time. But yeah, why don't you?
Okay, so can you see it properly?
Yep. What are we looking at? Rainfall.
Yeah, so this is for next 5 days. You can see its track, then it turns a little bit southwesterly there. So if I actually track where it is right now.
And it's the northern side that has a lot more rainfall there than the southern side.
Yeah, you can see that. So
Yeah.
it's dropping like in the middle of the eye basically. Dropping around 120 mils. I don't know how much that is in inches. Let me actually see if I can change it.
That's about 5 inches.
Yeah, 5 inches. So basically 7, 5.
Ethan's joined.
6, and then
All right,
basically,
we thank you.
with sheer Mauritius, it's gonna cause like around 2 inches apparently. You can see it's a little bit of it leaks out over there, but then it's gonna go like 4 inches, and then when it makes landfall on the eastern coast, if it does, around 6, 7 inches. It's 7 inches.
Now that's out to 5 days, so the one I showed was 7 days. Certainly expect more there in Madagascar from that number, but fairly similar analyses from both models. Let's move on so that we can let Ethan have a word on this storm. Of course, you've been tracking it as you have done all the time diligently. What are your thoughts on Freddy this morning, Ethan?
Good morning. I'm just looking at the storm now, and it does appear, at least from last night, that the cloud tops have at least a little bit organized. Of course, the storm right now, by our analysis, if I'm not mistaken, has winds of 150 miles per hour, I believe, right?
155 from the team.
155, slightly
Oh,
higher.
okay. I wouldn't say that this is a Cat 5 just yet.
No.
Certainly on the raw visible, just like based on the raw imagery. This isn't, in order for a storm to attain Category 5 intensity from 155, it has to sustain that Category 5 appearance for a few hours or so.
That's
I
the
don't
issue
think...
we have with the Saffir-Simpson scale, because the thing with the Saffir-Simpson scale, what it has done to people is that it's created this sort of mindset that there's a psyche barrier from going from 4 to 5, when in reality there shouldn't be one.
Yeah. But the storm is certainly really borderline. But at the end of the day, regardless of what intensity the storm makes landfall, it's going to be a significant threat. It's not every day that we see a storm track from basically the western coast of Australia all the way over towards Madagascar and Mozambique. Last time that I remember that this kind of thing happened was back in 2000 with Leon Aline. And that storm even formed farther west than what Freddy did. So this kind of track is extremely rare and is really an oddity for the Southwest Indian Ocean. Of course, we are expecting a Category 4 landfall, is what our latest forecast I believe, forecasted. JTWC are a lot lower, forecasting a Category 2 landfall. I really don't see that storm weakening this much up until land. Of course, that could happen, but I really don't see the storm weakening that much as it comes into Madagascar here. Maybe it might get down over to Category 3, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But conditions for the storm remain quite around what it is now, actually, up until landfall Mozambique. So I don't really see anything other than our recent cycle stopping the storm.
That's also one of the things I want to highlight. It's very impressive to me that because of the unique environment it's cocooned itself in, despite lasting for over 11 days at this point, this storm is yet to receive a single eyeball replacement cycle.
Yeah.
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 Like many storms that after rapid intensified, Category 5 so strong, and then afterward it just rapidly degraded, very short-lived peak due to our replacement cycle, but it's now multiple. Despite there's some fluctuation because sheer and dry air, no our replacement cycle, and then it just kept a Category 4 straight away, no ERC for like few days, and it expected to last for like 3 to 4 more days. It's Category 4 and still no ERC because of very low mid-level RH.
Alex, are you seeing anything different on those models than what we've mentioned?
Well, I am seeing kind of tricky at the moment. I'm still looking at the ensemble members for different regions, but there is still quite the uncertainty in actually how strong it will be at landfall. And models are actually not certain at all. There's a spread between quite a weak landfall in places, right where the storm hits, to a powerful one, and I'm seeing variations all the way down from 960 all the way up to 990 in millibars. So the models really, this is GEFS, by the way, and the ECMF is shown here, but models are not sure, neither are they in wind speeds and gusts. So can you, let me see, mid-surface pressure right here. Balance at 981, 2 meter temperature, not really large variation. Let's see, 850. You can see a peak shortly, but nothing really. Don't see anything quite abnormal.
Yeah.
More than there's a spread. That's all I can find. There's a spread, and we have to see in the coming days what it will end up being. Still too far out to say anything for certain. If I can mark out the difference, there are members basically killing off the storm somehow, and there are members getting the storm like down in low 940s. So that's the spread in the models. And given every member is technically a statistical equal chance,
True.
So I would not say anything about how strong it will be at landfall or anything until we're like 24 hours away. That's when we are.
I'm just saying that the potential for a very strong landfall certainly exists.
Yeah.
At least in my eyes. At least from my eyes, conditions do support a strong landfall. I mean, wind shear is only going to decrease. I mean, right now it's at 10 knots. Models indicate that's going to be towards 5 to near nil over the next 5 days. So that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Sea surface temperatures are rising a little bit. Wind relative humidity is rising a little bit. I mean, the only thing that really can stop this storm from what I'm seeing is dry air. And, of course, I think there's a lot of it in the vicinity of this storm, but it's got a decent core to it, and I think that it could survive those dry air conditions. Of course, it weakened yesterday, so anything's possible.
I'm going to do something, actually. I'm going to take a look at storms that passed near this one and see how many were strong when they made landfall in Madagascar. Have there been any Category 4 storms within a degree of this one? Yes, just one. Do you want to know what it is?
Hada 2000.
I'm curious.
Can I?
Wait for.
Latam?
Nope, Chris Darmia.
Oh,
That's the only storm that was this strong. Yep, within
1982 one.
Yep, within 1 degree of this one.
Oh, interesting.
That one, of course, recurved just before it got to Mauritius, though.
Pretty sure JDW said 898 millibars for Chris Damia. I have to check.
But apart from that, the only storm that actually struck Madagascar from this storm's current position with any amount of strength is Huda in 2000, as we know. One of the 2 very long-lasting storms of that season, which we've been comparing to endlessly because it's pretty much the only season we can compare this to. So yeah, there we go. Ethan, we're nearly out of time, so I just want your thoughts on whether you thought that that Freddy did reach Category 5 or not.
No, it did not. I'm not really sure where the JTWC got that 145 knot peak from. But certainly not. I mean, looking at satellite imagery, the storm clearly weakened as it went into that Category 5 peak.
There you go. I've lost my outro music. Oh, there it is.
I mean, it might be one in a few hours if it keeps up going what it's doing right now, so we'll have to wait and see.
Nathan.
Maybe. Yeah?
I'm gonna have to leave the call because it's load shedding now, so just let me know.
Well, we're finishing now, so
Okay.
Let
me know when you're available.
Right, sure. We are going to head off, but stay tuned to the Force 13 channel, and if you want to see more of this storm, on Force 13 Extra later tonight, we'll be doing a virtual flight into the storm. I don't know when yet, but look out on the Force 13 Extra channel for that schedule. And
I'll possibly be there.
and the way this is going, we will probably end up doing another hour of live coverage at about 6 a.m. Mauritius time tomorrow morning. That's not confirmed yet, so once again, stay tuned to our channels for information and confirmation of that event. But either way, we'll have video updates all around and everything, because we are pretty much all systems go now for Cyclone Freddy, which is proving to be a threat for the Mascarene Islands and Madagascar. It is still 4 days away from Madagascar, so time to prepare if you're in that area. It looks like it is coming. Madagascar and Reunion, around 2 to 3 days left. It is getting within 2,000 kilometers, so stay tuned for more updates on this as it passes close by to your north. You can follow our channel on its many outlets on what are our outlets anymore? YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Force 13. I think we're on TikTok now as well, and all of the other lovely places. So just search Force 13 on your preferred platform, and you'll find us doing whatever we're doing on there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest updates. That's where we do most of our stuff, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good evening, and stay tuned for more updates. Good night.